Cycles of revolution. Cycles of revolution.
At the moment, we're sitting in the hub, which is in the centre of Lammas, and it's not finished yet. It's still got plastic in the doors and stuff like that, but nevertheless, it's a symbol. It's more than a symbol, it's a real working building, and this is a working community now, and they're fumbling around with things that all villages fumble around with, like how should we govern ourselves? How should we pay for that hole in the track? Families have had visits from the planning inspectors and the building control inspectors, and I'm sure you've covered that in your film. And so that's interesting. And it feels like this arose out of a feeling of wanting to create community and create community on the earth in balance, with more time to spend with children and animals and trees and sky. And so the bigger objective seems to be being realised. It looks like people are doing that. And apart from all the nitty-gritty little niggling bits, it looks to me like it's working really well. It's beautiful. It's really beautiful. And I was one of the first people to come on this land before it was bought. When I answered an advert, or when Sue answered the letter I'd put in the paper saying, is there anybody who has some fields they'd like to sell for an eco-village? And so we looked around this, and this field would have been completely bald, just eaten down to that by sheep, and a few dead sheep lying around there were. Very bleak. So everything growing here is an example of what you can do to land if you put people on it with the right sense of spirit. My only question is, does this meet the needs of young, predominantly young, poor people who haven't been privileged to get any capital together somehow, who are in the cities, living in somebody else's design building, paying rent that they can't afford, maybe a job that they don't like or no job at all? How does this meet their needs to live sustainably and their needs to live in balance with Mother Earth? And I suppose all that this can do is, by attracting those people to be here and work with the owners of the different properties and work on different projects, is to inspire them and make them realise, yeah, I could do a lot myself, and actually buildings don't have to be square and stone and hermetically sealed and keep out all germs and nature. Buildings actually can be round and they can have grass on top, and yeah, you can use straw and you can use mud and you can use like anything. And just to open their eyes and looking around and realising, well, I could make a willow house, or I could make a stone house, and to just encourage people to take it into themselves, to make contact again with the earth. And I think there's enough of that spirit still in the people here who've gone through a lot of bureaucratic hassle just to be here. There's enough of that to infuse and to inspire a lot of people. The figure kind of coming out is maybe between £5,000 and £12,000. And so if you remove all the other criteria, if you remove all society's demands, you can actually produce your own house, a beautiful house that really is warm and well insulated and works, for about £10,000 to £15,000, £20,000. So that's very encouraging. One thing depends upon whether building inspectors are willing to say, okay, we recognise that there are certain values in what we hold dear that are very important. We don't want buildings to collapse on people. We don't want them to spontaneously catch fire. We want people to be protected from water dripping on their heads, stuff like that. And we are willing to acknowledge that most people are being ripped off by terrible condition houses in cities, usually virtual slum conditions, one room kind of bed sits and stuff like that, that don't conform to any of these standards, but people are being forced into those conditions and, rather than building their own funky structure. So could we not come up with some building regulations for low impact structures that have the basic requirements of good solid structures, a good warm floor, a good well insulated roof that won't kind of spontaneously combust or collapse, walls that let light in, but you know, it should be possible to come up with some kind of regulations that allow people to be creative and build their own houses without needing mixer taps, you know, so that, like, if you're really untogether, you burn yourself with hot water. That you know, there's some of these regulations that are pathetic. But it's amazing if you think how far the Welsh Government has come in such a short time in adapting planning needs to, or planning rules to those kind of needs. You see, it has come up with rules that make this whole village possible, right, in only 10 years, less. So it's totally possible for the powers that be to act very fast when they see a problem and they see a potential solution, and they open themselves to, like, what other people are thinking, not just bureaucratic answers, but like wide answers. And so I think it's quite possible that will happen, yeah. And maybe we just have to keep pushing, because it comes from pushing as well. Like, if one person just tries building a low impact structure in Wales, then, you know, it can be sat on. But if 500 people do, then it gets a bit of a problem. If 5,000 people do, then they'll change the rules. They'll just do it.
Hi there, this is Tony Wrench here again, in 2023 now. So I'm sort of retired, but I like keeping going on various things. So I've built this workshop that you can see behind me, which is oval, and it's a third, the walls are a third glass and a third cobwood and a third straw bale with a lime exterior. And this works very well, and it's also a studio for making music in and stuff. And if you're interested, I've got a couple of books here. I'll show you them indoors actually, okay? Here we are inside. So there's a nice view of the garden out here. Wood burner, musical instruments over there. On the right here is my lathe, wood lathe, and other bits of equipment. I'm making wooden bowls at the moment. Here's a pile of them. All these things. So these need finishing off, all these things. But it's nice to have a workshop that's completely solar powered. So I make all these on solar power. I don't even use a gas chainsaw. I've got a cordless chainsaw that's charged by the sun. The wood comes from about 100 yards from here. And so it's nice to make a small living still from that kind of thing. And also from these books. Here's a couple of books. This one, Building a Low Impact Roundhouse, written after most of our planning struggles. And you've got quite a lot of pictures in here as well. And it's about the whole process of designing and building our roundhouse. With lots of sort of philosophical stuff, I suppose, or at least thoughts about how to go about thinking about things. You know, there's pictures of me at the sink and stuff, and so that's a story of how we built it. That's about 13 quid, something like that. And this book, A Simple Roundhouse Manual, I wrote this more recently, about 8 years ago, and this is based on the experience of taking several courses, maybe 20 courses on building a roundhouse, and so this is called a simple roundhouse manual, and this has got a lot of colour illustrations on just this different bits. So this is the reciprocal frame, like this building that I stand in now has a reciprocal frame roof like that, and so it lets plenty of light in. This is how to build different sorts of reciprocal frame. The magic bit, drainage, stem wall, putting the hinge up. I like hinges like this, so if you make, say, 6 hinges like this and stand them up and then just connect them, you've got a really good structure, good skeleton to build the roof on. That's how this is built as well, where I'm standing now. Okay, so there you go. This is more of an investment really, but if you're going to build one, you might as well sort of get into the detail of it. So that's that. All right. Thanks very much for watching. Bye for now.